Ulonga tabati yada to ye kuma daifa. Inu to ye go je love bipa. Oba tala, oba takutakun. Songo Eshu, Ogun Oya Osun. Kini ṣẹ̀ṣe tán ṣe nílé yìí o. Ó jẹ́ lọ jára rẹ̀.
Alafia, peace and blessings, peace and blessings. Welcome to another episode of the African Spirituality Experience. I am your host, Orisha Oko, and today we are joined by, I think this is like the third, fourth time we've had this, the honor and the pleasure of having Baba Khepra Ptah joining us, man. So with that, family, I want to give a quick shout out to the tribe, shout out to everybody, for supporting and showing love. Definitely been a little break, man. Had a little break. And I'm just gonna be real with y'all, family. Like Spirit just been talking to me, and I had to kind of sit my behind down for a little while, let the mind, body, and the soul recharge because it's a lot going on. So, I feel like today would be a phenomenal day, to bring this thing back. What's amazing, Baba, is I didn't realize when we booked this last week or whatever we booked it that it was on 8/8. I didn't realize it was on Lionsgate. So I feel like it's a divine alignment because I did know what you had in store for us tonight. But I didn't see how how the numerology and the numerical, factors played into this. So with that, first and foremost, peace and blessings of Boro Boya Boshishe Alafia to you, Baba. How you doing, man?
Boy, I bought told sorry over your phone. I'm doing pretty good, Bob. Doing pretty good.
Sir. Yes,
so,
sir.
And you don't mind, I want to acknowledge the Lionsgate this evening, and I also want to call on a couple of names of Olodumare. Let me go ahead and just cool my area off. I got the plant, you know what I'm saying? I got my homeboy, this is my plant right here, so I got to hook him up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Some libations to the plant world.
Homie tutu, ele tutu, ana tutu, tutu eshu, tutu wetu, kosi ku, kosi ojo, kosi efo, kosi edina, kosi akoba, aiku baba wa, ash. Iba Olodumare. Iba oba atoruma. Iba leda, aye atioru. Iba deripe, iba bara tipolange. Iba tiko ni bere, iba tiko ni open. Ashe.
Yes, sir. Nah, I appreciate you, Baba. And real quick too, before we dive in, because I know we're about to take a deep dive. Shout out to the tribe again, man, because it's been a lot of comments and a lot of activity on the channel that I'm definitely going to address and get back with y'all with that too, because I do my best to keep up with y'all with the comments and everything else, family. So like I said, I had to unplug for a little while and just let Spirit do what Spirit do. But we're here now, we back. And we definitely coming with these thunderbolts and these lightning bolts, and it's a lot of thunder and lightning where I'm at in my corner of the globe, man. So we coming to bring that virtual, thunder and lightning from Kabi Shango up in this thing today because it is O'Shea Shango Day today on top of the 8/8. So Baba, let's get it, man. Let's get it.
All right. And since this is the Lion's Gate, I want to also open up with the gate openers. We honor Baba Eshu, Master of the Roads, Keeper of all the thresholds. We honor Baba Legba, opener of the door for us. Eshu, open up our path. Legba, open up our way. Let the light of Sirius descend. Let the fire of Leo rise in us. This is the day of the Lion's Gate. It's the day of number 8. We light a candle. We face the rising sun. We face the stars. Great lion of the sky. Sirius, also known as Septet and Kemet. Also known as the canoe star to the Yoruba. Star of remembrance. Shine your codes into our Ori. Shine your fire into our Eshu, messenger of the divine. Legba, translator of the spirits. Carry our voice across the realms. Bring us clarity, courage, and cosmic truth. Eshu lo nami. Legba she shemen win. Oru Tane Mole, Sirius, Septet, Fin, Ian Reyes, okay? Eshu is our path. Legba carries our way. The sun shines light. Sirius lifts its fire. We give thanks and praise. Eshu, Legba, open the gates. This is the Lion Gates. We call upon the opening of the portals. We ask that the portals be widely open to us. Let the ancestors walk through with us. Let the ancestors walk through for us. Let the divine speak through us. Let the solar codes awaken within us. We walk in the light. We walk in truth. We walk in power. Eshu, Legba, Eshu Odara, Eshu Laroye. We thank you. Sirius, we receive the energies of Sirius because not too long ago, it was a rising of Sirius as well as the rising of the Nile. around the time of July and the beginning of this month. We give thanks and praise as we open and we come through the Lion's Gate. And this is why we come up with the topic of solarization. Around this time, you want to make sure that you speak about things that are positive. You want to look at things in a positive way and write down everything that you would like to see manifest. Because since the date of this time is dealing with 8, you're talking about the energies of Obatala who comes to cool the energies of Shango so that there is balance. And since there is balance, we're talking about Ewapuele, we're talking about Ma'at, we're talking about bringing order out of chaos. And as you write things down, keep a positive mind. Write what it is that you want to see manifest. Do your chants. Say it over and over again. Let it be imprinted on your life force. For this is the beginning of a new time as you're reborn. Open up the way for all good things to come your way and give yourself permission to receive. Peace and gratitude. Shay.
I say, oh. And shout out to Wunam too, man, because I got a chance to jump on. We literally just finished a call just now, right before we came on the live. I didn't even know she was having it tonight, but I was able to jump in and tap in with that, and it was powerful, and even people who was on the call was saying how they saw the nature moving around, you know what I'm saying? Like the elements were participating in the chants. Like, you feel me? Like, I'm talking about the wind was picking up. I think one person said like the trees were moving like in a different kind of way, swaying and all that. And I've been seeing the lightning and the thunder all day. Like, they've been getting loose up there in the sky. So I already know it's about to be a real electrically charged energy tonight, man. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. And real quick too, because you were the one who came up with this topic, so I want to make sure I give credit where credit is due, because this is your baby. You feel me? And it's like, I remember when you told me about it, I'm like, yeah, this gonna be dope. I'm looking forward to it. So I'm gonna give you your flowers, man, and give you your due, because it's a dope topic. Like I said, I feel like it's even more divine because of the way it fell with the alignment with the day and time. So it's like, that's what it is, So with that, Baba, how does all this kind of tie into, because you've been getting a lot of downloads. I think you've been getting messages and communication from the ancestors, from the Orisha, from the Netchers, from spirit, and we've been talking about this probably maybe a month and a half now, 2 months. We've been talking about this topic, I think, but a lot of stuff came up in between time, to kind of slow down the actualization of us bringing it to the people, but we're here now. So can you kind of share with me just how even this came about? Because it's a deep topic, and you a deep brother, one of the deepest ones I've had the pleasure of interviewing. So with that, man, how did this all come about? How did Spirit give you this gift?
Well, it started quite some time ago. One day, something just said, start writing, and I just started writing. And what came out was the Solarization papers. And I've been meditating on those ever since, or meta-marinating on those. Now, here's the thing. I was actually going to publish them, but I decided to get a little hood and put some unsanitary wording in my writings. But you see, I was trying to mix it with the writings I was receiving from Spirit. This was over 10 years ago. So guess what happened? The computer ended up getting shut down, and I ended up losing the thumb drive because they're saying, we don't want you talking like that with what you're revealing. So I had to take it into consideration that this is not coming from me. This is coming from above. And if I'm going to add anything to it, it's a way of speaking so that people will understand. But I'm not going to put anything that's impure into these teachings that the ancestors have shared with me. And I believe that there's a whole bunch of people that are receiving these downloads because it's time. Now, how this came about was through a few circumstances. Now you could say it is reintroducing itself. Where we spoke last time, I was already beginning to get downloads. This time it's talking about, let's deal with galactic awareness. And I'm like, galactic? Yes. Because what had happened is I had an experience one time when I was surrounded by light and I felt like I was one with everything. And therefore, I was not just one, but I was all. I was one with allness. And it has given me the perception that each and every one of us are one with allness. We just have to remember. So solarization is the activation and divine illumination of our inner sun, that is supreme universal nature. It also breaks down to solar unified network. The more you shine, the easier it is for the unseen helpers on the other side to keep track of you and locate you when necessary. And you'll attract entire networks of light beings when we're in a mode of expansion. Yoruba, they call it Ire. It leads to collective divinity within our humanity, and this includes love, love for self, forgiveness for self. You have to establish these things so that you can also share this with others. And galactic awareness. Now, galactic awareness is a multi-dimensional state of consciousness that recognizes our intrinsic connection to the cosmos, the galactic center, and the intelligence that permeates all existence. It involves the tuning to the rhythms, energies, and wisdom of the galaxy. Thus would be the ultimate microcosmic Ra, the macrocosmic Ra, as we are the microcosms. Each and every one of us are vessels and vehicles of Ra. And the galactic center, the Yoruba will call that the seat of Olorum. And the Mayans talked about this being Hunabku in Mayan cosmology. So as a way to transcend the limited, earthbound perspectives and awaken to our role as cosmic beings. This awareness expands through practices that align our energy centers, such as activating the galactic connection. We may call these the power centers. Remember, we are a miniaturization of the universe, a miniaturization. We're fractals, where every part contains the whole, the holographic universe, in which we're representatives in parts and reflections of. So we're here to open pathways to our own interdimensional insight, universal empathy, and the remembrance of our divine origins. So solarization, you're talking about the Lion's Gate portal and the Orisha. All this is dealing with a sacred conversion. Lion's Gate, Sirius, Leo. We're still in the month of Leo. The Lion's Gate portal, it peaks annually August 8th, right? And this is 8/8. So when the Earth, Sun, Sirius, and Orion's belt aligns, this celestial event takes place and is rooted in the Kemetic cosmology of what I mentioned earlier. We're talking about Septet, also known as Sirius, heralded the Nile's flooding, symbolizing the rebirth, the abundance, and divine timing. The number 8 represents infinity, karmic cycles, resurrection. It is also the number of Obatala, who comes down to bring the coolness to Baba Shango, which is his day. Kabi Seo, Baba Shango, the Orisha that lives in the sky. Double and 8/8, it amplifies themes of balance, power, and soul alignment. Solarization, Leo rule. Leo governs the heart, courage, creative expression. The portal invites us to roar from the soul, shedding illusions and activating the divine purpose. And what sound does it make? Ra. In fact, when you look on the Indian tradition, when they talk about their psychic centers as the chakras, right here in the solar plexus, the sound vibration is Ra, or Raum, or Rama. You see, Ra means power in the Yoruba language. So once again, you see how universal this African sound, Ra, which activates our inner fire, is. Solarization is the activation of divine memory and multi-dimensional sovereignty through solar frequencies. The sun in Leo amplifies the heart center. This is also where Ogun works. Remember, in Africa, Ogun is a fire deity as well. He is a fire Orisha as well, like his brother Shango. The Heliacal rising of Sirius acts as a spiritual ignition, bearing the resurrection codes of Ra, Obatala, Shango, and other solarized deities of fire and coolness, and bringing balance to the force. Leo amplifies the heart chakra. So therefore, we want to also practice forgiveness, and we have to forgive ourselves for not being perfect in the eyes of others. And what is this thing we call perfection anyway? You can't find perfection in a world that's forever changing. Understand, this is not the world where you reach perfection. It is a world where it's steady progression, where you make discoveries. So, energetic sovereignty, forgiveness is important to release energetic weight that no longer helps us manifest because it's a weight. It no longer serves us. So when you're holding on to anger towards yourself and you keep holding on to anger to others, 20 years ago, even 15 years ago. You got to let it go so you can be the light. If you look on the judgment scene in Kemet, right? It's in the British Museum under the judgment scene where the deceased goes before a seer, and his heart is being weighed with the feather of Ma'at. And if it's not balanced with the feather of Ma'at, then his soul is eaten by Amit, who is known as the soul eater, the eater of hearts. So, from the Kemetic perspective, it'll be good for you to balance and receive the likeness of the feather of Ma'at in your heart so that your soul can reach immortality. To the Cometians, they believe that you can die a second death and that your soul can be destroyed and be denied of immortality. So whether you see it that way or not, the identity, that can go because it's made and formed on earth. That is your personal temporary identity. But your consciousness in its highest form cannot be destroyed because it is forever, because you're part of the all. Remember that. In other words, in order for us to embrace this precious treasure of immortality, we have to identify with the infinite and not so much focus on just finite things. And this is the issue in which the system in which we live, because they have put finite things over the value of self, family, and loved ones. Values is important, especially when it comes to maintaining balance in our environment and balance within ourselves. So we're talking about galactic and human awakening. The Netaru are not just mythic deities. They are the living frequencies and cosmic principles that govern creation, transformation, resurrection, each name awakening, events which corresponds to a Neter who embodies the phase of consciousness. So for those who study West African traditions, I'm not telling people to stop what they're doing and just all focus on just Kemet. But I do think if you look at Kemet, you will find universal truths there and why that civilization became what it became and why it's so loved by the world, because of the sacred geometry and the architecture that is visible in the buildings. The Yoruba have it too, but it's hidden, you see. So we're looking at Tahuti. We're looking at Tahuti governs divine timing and karmic cycles and solar counting, where initiates wisdom and maturity. We are looking at Nebutet, who guides through grief, shadow work, and ego death, who holds space for rebirth. We're looking at Sekhmet. She is the solar warrior of transformation that activates the DNA, which I call the divine nature of Atum, and burns away illusion. Then there's Aset, who awakens divine feminine power and spiritual memory that rises the serpentine energy that we call the life force. And Ra Harukti, or Harukti, the solar and galactic alignment being that brings earth and consciousness with cosmic intelligence and helps to fight and overthrow the serpent. Well, Seer oversees death and rebirth cycles to resurrect the divine self from fragmentation. Right? What do they call that? Soul retrieval, when you're going to collect the parts of you that have been scattered through traumatic events. Ma'at, mathematics, matrix, matriarch, the mat in which the Baba Lao sits on. Signifying alignment with cosmic order, truth, balance, and reminds us of soul contracts. The mat is also reminiscent of the throne in which Osir has to sit on, because the throne is called the Aset. Even in the Akan tradition, the sacred stool is what gives the king power. The sacred stool is a feminine object. The throne is a feminine object. So it represents sitting on the lap of the mother. In the Yoruba Odu Idimeji, it talks about the first throne. The first throne is the lap of the mother. The first throne that the king sat on was the lap of his mother. Khepra, the symbol of solar rebirth, ushers in new cycles and quantum emergence. And Heteru, she governs higher sensory perception, beauty, ecstatic states, and opens the heart to divine frequencies. So for those who are familiar with Shetwat Neter and Nahast, the Kemetic path of enlightenment, for those who have studied the text written by Muwatta Ashby back in the day, like Egyptian yoga and so on, he talks about the mysteries of Neter. And according to the teachings of Shetwat Neter, the ultimate goal is Nahast, the spiritual enlightenment and conscious union with the divine. This mirrors the galactic journey of awakening, where the initiate becomes an Ak an enlightened being embodying the Netaru and waking to the higher reality, walking as a living temple of cosmic truth.
Yeah, we just get warmed up, man. We just
Oh,
we
brother,
just get
we're
warmed
on
up.
fire.
And you know what? You triggered something that I gotta go ahead and do. I've been talking about it, but I gotta do it tomorrow. Matter of fact, I'm gonna probably because I have a archive, man, a video that it was actually the very first time I introduced Professor Khepra, and it was in Miami. I want to say I was like one of his events I went to, and I interviewed him in Miami, and but it was dope because that was my very first time ever interviewing him, and it was a powerful interview because we were speaking about a lot of things you just referenced. But the main thing that one of the main key points of that interview was Sirius. And he went real deep in depth in regards to the Dogon tribe, right? And how they had the night eye and how they were able to train their eyes, by being nocturnal in order to see at far distances, in the constellations and throughout the galaxy, and to be able to actually identify Sirius. So with Sirius being a very, strong I feel like a strong topic within the opening of this conversation. How does Sirius play a role into when you talk about it being, coming from Canis Major, being the brightest star in the sky that we can see from our corner of the universe, and it has a lot of spiritual, attributes to it. It's a very powerful, powerful, powerful star, and it has a lot of powerful significance to it in regards to what takes place on the planet, especially when we're talking about the Kemetic culture. So if you don't mind, man, Baba, you mind kind of just tapping into the Sirius mystery a little bit for us before we go further into the solarization?
I think it plays a part because Sirius is also connected to Aset in her heavenly form of Septet or Septet. You see what I mean? It's connected to Anpu or Anubis, hence the dog star. So yeah, they asked the Dogon, how did you know about the existence of Sirius B? They talking about a third star, Sirius C. They said, how did you know about this? They just said, we looked. And they said, we come from that star. They said, how did you get here? They said, we walked. They walked. So they walked from Sirius down here. That's some cold stuff. But hey, we live in a multi-dimensional reality in the holographic universe. So all is possible. It's just
Yes,
that
sir.
our minds have been closed to it. I remember Malidoma, Patrice O'May talking about how they had opened up a portal and went to another realm, and how these children would jump through the hoops of fire, and how one of them fell to the cracks and came back in the form of blazing, it looked like blazing goop, like it was ectoplasm that caught on fire. So Septet, it deals with the connection with the Nomo. The Nomo are these beings that supposed to have taught humanity about ancient tradition, and also about the stars, about the planets. And it talks about a being called Nomo Anagono, which is a fish, right? Nomo Anagono is a fish. Now keep in mind, there was a star, they call this star Imiya, and it sounds a lot like Yemaya, Imiya, that connect with that star, and Potolo, the grain star. Here's the thing. Yemaya is the mother of fish, right? Well, the fish is symbolic in the Dogon tradition as the eighth ancestor, Anagono. And it is said that this ancestor would give his body to be eaten and his bones thrown into the water where he'll be resurrected on the third day. Now, another thing is that the Native Americans have a similar story about the salmon, about how they eat the salmon and throw the bones back, and on the third day, the salmon come back to life again. So it comes back to life. So we look at this idea of the Christ consciousness, because that's what we're dealing with, Christ consciousness. They didn't just hijacked it and repainted it and turned it white. But the idea of the Christ consciousness is talking about the Piscean I believe and belief, right? And then moving into the Aquarian age of the knowing, in which we're moving into right now. We're moving it towards more of the knowing. We're coming out of the age of belief. So that star septet is very important because it connects us with the Nomo. And when you're dealing with the Syrian tradition, the Syrian connection, it is good to go by water and talk to the Nomo. The Dogon talk about Nomo being identified with water. And they also connected to the power of the word. And the thing about the Dogon is that they said that the pole star, or that is the grain star, is made of the heaviest substance in the universe. Now, you know, if you take a thimble full of a neutron star, it weighs about 100 million tons. How do you know that? Right? So the Europeans is all over the place. They're like, wait a minute, these people couldn't have come up with that on their own. It must have been some white guy from Greece that went down and talked to them and shared this knowledge with them. But nope, they haven't been able to show that. The Dogon said, hey, we looked, we walked from Sirius. You know what I'm saying? Hey, why not? Take their word for it. I mean, you know, you want people to believe that some white guy died for your sins and saved you, and that we're supposed to take you for your word on that. You know what I mean?
That
so
part.
tuning into Septet, tuning into Sirius, it also talks about our cosmic journey. In ancient Kemet, they also paid attention to Sirius and Septet. They even have the festival of the Nile, the Hepset festival that we just had. Now, the lineage that I'm connected to is also dealing with the star Septet and its rising and its setting and being celebrated as the final day on July the 31st. So they had practiced those 4 or 5 days, you know, the 5 days that Tahuti had won from Ra during a bet. Anyway, Septet also marks the beginning of a new year. So we're dealing with the beginning of the new year. Septet, Sirius, in its 50-year evolution, all of that is connected to our growth in consciousness. It is said that the souls of Africans come from that star. So it looked like we're stopping off Earth, but according to the pyramid text, our journey is eventually to go and get to Orion. Now, the Orion constellation theory, proposed by Robert Bauval, it posits that the 3 main pyramids of Giza, Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure bear the layout of Orion's belt, right?
Yeah.
Now, Orion was associated with Seer, the net of resurrection and the afterlife. And the pyramids thus become a terrestrial map of the soul's journey back to the stars. Because we came from the stars, and to the stars we return. You see what I mean? This is the stopping point. Your consciousness has taken so many forms, have been around so many lifetimes, so many dimensions, and you're living within the multiverse, right? So yes, it's the blue sun. In fact, there's a man by the name of Stephen Mailer who had learned from an ancient wisdom keeper by the name of Abdul Hakim, who speaks about Septet and Sirius being identified with Ptah, and he says Ptah being he of the blue. And it's kind of similar to what the Hopi Indians say about the blue Kachina. And the Hopi Indians appear to also have a very similar cosmology to the Dogon. So we're talking about the fact that when it comes to galactic consciousness, we're tapping into so many things because we're all connected at the top. You see what I mean? But Set creates differentiation and gets everybody to think that we're all different. You see what I mean? So, you know, so from the perspective of Commission perspective, the Afrakan is of the flesh and the spirit of Ra, you see. But if we say, you know, African, whether we want to deal with Scipio Africanus or whatever, the fact of the matter is Afrik means place of birth, but in the Kemetic language, you break it down to Afuraka, the flesh and the spirit of Ra. You see what I mean? So on that note, you know, I'm beyond just a certain space and place. I'm an African because I'm of the flesh and spirit of Ra. You see. So, yes, I'm a Haru of Ra and Het Haru. Born of Ra and connected to Septet. And my journey is to Orion. The Nile River is said to represent the Milky Way, reinforcing the cosmic mirror between the earth and the sky. The word galactic contains the word lactic because they literally thought that we arose from a sea of milk. You'll find this in ancient texts. You'll find this in Hindu. Vishnu was laying on a big ass lotus, right, on a sea of milk. So this was common. You know, the Nile, they spoke about the Milky Way and they identified with the cosmic mother in the form of Het Haru as a great cow. See?
Yeah.
And
so, you talk about as above, so below.
Exactly.
Yes,
you know, so, you know, and then when you fast, you're trying to clean yourself out of debris and stuff like that. So you drink water. You see what I mean? So therefore you clean out the inner Nile. You know, you're working with Oshun because you're cleaning up the rivers of your arteries.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah. In fact, Mexico also recognized Septet and Sirius, and the Tibetans also recognized Septet or Sirius. They all had festivals around this star, which at the brightest star when we look up. In Teotihuacan, Mexico, the layout of the pyramid of the sun, the pyramid of the moon, and the temple of Quetzalcoatl reflect Orion's belt as well, aligning the Mesoamerican beliefs in the stellar origins and solar resurrection. It is in Teotihuacan where it says that man is transformed into a god. So Nabta Playa, another place, megalithic stone circle predating Stonehenge. Nabta Playa aligns with Orion's belt and may have served as a ceremonial site for star-based rituals and seasonal tracking. Angkor Wat. Check this out. Angkor Wat is called Cambodia. Cambodia. Cam. There we go with that word Cam. You turn the word Omak backwards and it seems like it got the word Cam. Once again, Mecca contains the word Cam. This place is throughout Africa with the word Cam, which means black and burnt and everything else. So some researchers suggest that the temple complex of Angkor Wat aligns with the stars of Orion's belt, reflecting the Hindu cosmology and the mythic journey of the soul through the heavens. So from Septet or Sirius to Sa, Orion, they call it Sahu, which is basically the Sahu. That's the aspect of you that is incorruptible when you become a Sahu. So Osir, the heavenly Osir, is called Sahu. In Cairo, they call it the place of the crusher. They talk about the giant. They talk about Nimrod. All that is connected to that same constellation, what they call Orion or Orion, the place of the Orion. Orion's belt is more than a star pattern. It's a cosmic code in Kemetic cosmology. Orion, Orion, Ori, representing the resurrected soul, the divine principle, and the path of ascension, aligning structures to Orion, was a way to anchor galactic consciousness into Earth's grid, creating resurrected portals through architecture. Synchronizing human life with stellar cycles, such as that of Septet, aka Sirius, and divine timing. You see? Yes, so we have to look at the place of origin, the place where we're stopping off here on Earth, and the place where the pyramid text, according to the text of Unas, where it says that Unas was an eater of the gods and everything else. And by the way, every time you eat a fruit, banana, apple, you're eating the gods because you're eating of the same substance and stardust in which all things are made. Yes, so yes, you are the universe, feeding on the universe. You are the universe getting to know itself, loving itself, playing with itself, expressing itself, doing all that. You're an aspect of the universe. And here's the thing, somebody has to be you. So your existence was inevitable. And there is no death, only transformation. There is no observation of awareness. It's always going to take another form, and life is always going to find a way to exist. So you don't have to worry about ceasing to exist. You don't have to worry about that. There's always going to be some kind of you in some form or another. Because you see, here's the thing. If you was to lose the perspective of your personal physical body, there's a possibility that you can experience consciousness to every living being at the same time. And the book by Herman Hesse is talking about how the Buddha was able to transfer his consciousness into plants and animals. How is that? Because you see, the illusion is that our consciousness is just sealed off within ourselves. So there is no death because consciousness is always going to find a way to exist and be you. I experienced this at the Qigong class when I felt myself inside of someone else's body. And there's also the concept of quantum entanglement. Well, shucks, you're being quantum entangled with your ancestors as well as your descendants who are communicating with you in the future. You are an ancestor and they're communicating with you right now. Aset says, I am yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and no mortal man sees past my veil. In other words, in order for you to see beyond the veil of Aset, you got to go beyond that which is finite. And Aset is the heavenly septet, or the earthly Sirius. And septet is the heavenly Aset. So the Orion correlation theory proposed by Robert Bauval, right? This suggests that the three pyramids mirror the stars of Orion's belt and appeared around 10,500 BC, aligning with the mythic age of Osiris' resurrection. You see? So, yes. Now, I know they're talking about the heavenly war. I'm not talking about Zechariah Stitchin right now. I'm talking about the solar mythos right now. Okay? So there's a solar mythos that we want to talk about because they're always also talking about the constellations. But we'll get into that soon because there was a war in the heavens. There was. And we're here to experience how to get back to where we once were because we are also quarantined here until we figured it out, as it talks about in the Odu, where humans cry out to Olodumare asking, how come we cannot stay? How come we cannot stay in heaven once we die? Why are we stuck between heaven and earth? And Olodumare tells human beings that you will return once you reach the perfect state, which is called a pere. And you will, first of all, have eliminated crime. You will have eliminated sickness. And you will have to overcome all forms of jealousy. And you will overcome Eshu. What does that mean? It doesn't mean that you're defeating Eshu. It means that you're overcoming duality, where Eshu has a hold on you down here, because Eshu is going to continue to deal with you from a realm of duality if you allow your consciousness to be pregnant. Ashe? So the Neolithic trio hinges the line with Orion's belt, midwinter setting of Orion, rising of Sirius, all that. Even the story of the mythos where it talks about Orion being stung by the scorpion and descending into the underworld. Well, when Scorpio rises, Orion sets because Orion is being stung by the Scorpio when it comes to winter. So that's what that represents. And we're talking about the movements of constellations, okay? So all that dealing with Naphtopleia, Teotihuacan, all that was dealing with the as above, so below consciousness. So consciousness also projects. Eventually, I'm going to talk about Kudo Mutwa too. I'll talk about that, because people love that subject. We talk about Kudo Mutwa, Vasa Musta, Kudo Mutwa, and Chitari. We'll talk about that a little later. People love to bring that up though, about the reptilians in Kudo Mutwa, right? You know what's interesting? You seen the last Avengers movie? No, the first Avengers movie. What they call the reptilians?
Bruh. I can't tell you how many people I'm gonna have to buy that doggone movie because I'm telling you, you gotta be at least like this maybe fifth, sixth person just on the show alone that's told me I gotta see that because I haven't seen it yet. But real quick before we go into that, I don't know how, but I was trying to find my Sirius mystery book because this is a very powerful book that really breaks down a lot of what we're getting into tonight, but it goes real deep and thorough. Not as if we're not going deep and thorough, but it gives a written chronological perspective with real receipts on how far and how deep this goes. And then when you speak about the Naphtopleia and all that, I think I brought this one up on the first call we had. I just jumped in and jumped out with it. But the origin maps, this one goes deep when it breaks down the the Naphtopleia and all the historical, monolithic and megalithic astrological maps that we've had, strung across the globe. And shout out to Freedom Master Teacher. I just saw a video today too with Dr. York, and he was talking about how the star seeds and how the children of the I would say extraterrestrial beings all have different schools, on the planet, and so that the bird that that kind of stretches out over that whole space over there is like you can only see it from the astrological perspective, right? And so when you see that, that's just pretty much an identifying marker, kind of like with football where you have the yard line on, where you got to go to get to the first down or whatever. It's just letting us know where we got to get to when we come from the cosmic level to come down to this planet, what school we're going to be in, right? So it was dope. It was a dope video. But you tapping into some of that now. But I think one thing I want to share real quick before you, dive back in with the people is like the symbolism, because you mentioned Orion's belt and then you mentioned Sirius and you mentioned how all that's connected. But for me, it's something I remember like teaching children back in like preschool ages is like how the stars align. You know what I'm saying? So Alnitak, Alnilam, and Mintaka all align. Those are Orion's belt. They all align with Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure, which are the three great pyramids of Kemet. But then Sirius comes back, you know what I'm saying, trailing behind, almost like a four-way race. Sirius would be the anchor, you know what I'm saying, like running behind the three. And then now, how does the ceremonial aspect kind of tie into this real, I feel like, scientific, without a shadow of a doubt, confirmation how when we have these certain times where the Nile rises and it goes down and comes up, and then we have like Sirius doing what it does. Aren't there temples that are built where Sirius shines directly through certain temples in Kemet to signify the heliacal rising of these different types, or I should say times of the year that we see cosmically, but also I feel like it affects us here on the planet as well?
Absolutely. In fact, the main temple that it shines right through is on the shaft of the king's chamber in the pyramid of Giza, the Great Pyramid. So that's why people got to understand of our divine origin as well as our divine destiny. You see what I mean? That's where the king is coming from. You're coming from one place and you're going to another place. But it's attuning you to these energies. It's attuning you to the sacred masculine and feminine energy. That, in this case, the masculine of Osa and the mastery of Septet. The pyramid's alignment with Orion's belt and the Milky Way suggests that they're the mirror of the heavens and facilitate soul travel. That's why they had all these festivals to remember these things. In the Kemetic cosmology, Osiris represents the resurrected soul. He's Orion. That represents the resurrected soul. You see, so Septet is constantly shown as rising. So we always remember Septet because of his connection with the agricultural. And it's talking about, even in the text of Enoch, about how angelic forces came and taught us some things, including how to do agriculture and so on. You see what I mean? But what I believe that these angelic forces are, so some people say they're extraterrestrials, but what those are, those were beings that survived the last cataclysm, and they wanted to maintain that knowledge. They did not want that knowledge to die out. You see what I mean? So yes, of course, here's the thing. You're a past, present, and future being. You're an ancestor now to your descendants. And by the way, you can communicate with your descendants now. Quantum entanglement is a real thing, and there's no such thing as death. It's only transition, only transformation. You cannot die. It goes through a process of appearing you die. That's why in ancient Kemet talks about traveling west. When a person so-called dies, it says that they go into the realm of Amenta. It says that they're westing. So in the west of the Nile, they have what was called the necropolis. And guess what? Even as an ancestor, they can speak and make offerings to the mummy, because the mummy has now become a shrine. And because they're still feeding the mummy, right? The Ka of the mummy is becoming strengthened. And that's when you see the spirit or the force ghost of the mummy. You're seeing the force ghost, the person, because as long as you continue to feed the Ka of an individual, you can make it stronger. But when people forget the name, the Ren, which helps keep it alive, that's when the energy of the spirit begins to either get lost or dissipate and become weaker. So when you feed your ancestors, you're making them stronger. The more you feed your ancestors and call their names and remember them, the stronger you make their Ka.
That's powerful, man. And you know what? There's a book that I got. That one I don't have the physical copy. I have the digital copy, but it's called The Meaning of the Word Hotep. And I haven't found anything else. You must have read that one. I haven't found anything else that breaks down the significance of the Ren like that book does. I ain't saying there ain't none out there, but as far as in my little library, I haven't found anything else that breaks down the significance of the Ren and how that ties into, you know what I mean, the symbolism and the symbolic meaning. Because, you and I would know, well, you have, I believe, Kemetic priesthoods as well. But for me, within the Ifa Sheshe tradition, every time we go through a ceremony of elevation, we receive a new Ren. We receive a new name. So that new name, that new Ren, it personifies a new entity. It personifies a new energy, a new, a new Ashe that has been born throughout that ceremony, throughout that ritualistic practice. So how does that align with what we're experiencing now? Because right now I feel like we're seeing, we're feeling, we're experiencing a lot of ceremonial energy that's going on in the planet. I personally know I've been feeling it, and that's why I had to kind of sit down and chill, because it's been extremely powerful. It's been a lot, So how does that tie together?
Well, I want to talk about something real quick too that might when you went through your initiation, right? And those who go through initiation, you know, and I'm gonna just go so far with this. You're being fused with the energy of either a deity or an ancestor, and that's why you plus that entity has become a new being. You're no longer the same. So therefore, you're married to this force for the rest of your life. You're one with it. So you're not the same being that you were before initiation. You're not supposed to be the same being that you were before initiation. So you therefore you have gotten the second chance as another person. And this is why it's seen and said to be a sacrifice or an for many when it comes to transformation of oneself, because you're remembering who you are, but you're no longer regarding being that person that you was before initiation. You're supposed to change. You're supposed to transform. This is why it says in one of the Odu, and I believe that maybe it's Aretio Fun. It talks about I was initiated, then I initiated myself. So you have to initiate yourself. Secondly, the whole world is going through a form of initiation and purification. Right now, we're going through the great separation. Like for instance, you're looking at how all these arguments are taking place on YouTube. People are becoming scattered, they're disagreeing, they're arguing about things that once was obvious. They're becoming slaves to algorithms because they're not thinking. They're just letting the algorithm dictate to them how they think, because the computer is going to tell you what you want to hear and give you confirmation bias and create more division in that way, because you still have to be a critical thinker. Even though there's AI, even though there's algorithms, you can't be a slave to algorithm. But at the same time, this separation eventually creates what is called a cleansing and purification, and that's when it comes back together. This is alchemy, you see. So when something it divides, it multiplies, it comes back together. This is the mathematics of the universe and how things work. It's how the universe works. You look at the word universe, you and I verse all, and then you you reverse it and get lost revenue. Lost revenue, remember, lost revenue, remember. Yoruba say that the world is a marketplace and heaven is our home. Over here in this universe is a constant exchange. You're constantly exchanging things here. So this was not meant for you to be here permanently. You're meant to, come here and bring something to the marketplace, bring your talents and bring your uniqueness. That's why the Igbo says, you have come to the market. What have you brought to the marketplace? You're here to bring something to the marketplace. You're not here to be like everybody else. Damn it. You're not here to be like everybody else. Anybody that tells you that you're here to be like everybody else, especially those who are on this call right here, you're on this video, you're watching this video, your RE has led you to understand, right? And I'm not taking credit as being the only one. I'm just saying I'm one of the many signs that you probably have had been shown that you're here to be unique. And remember that. You're here to be unique and you're here to be you. You're not here to be like everybody else and be robots to get microchips put in your head and think like everybody else. You're not here to do that. You see what I mean? So when you try to get somebody that tells you that digging up potatoes work for them and that's their career, we're supposed to dig up potatoes. By the way, Sirius is also sacred to Orisha Oko. So anyway, once again,
whoa. Bye-bye. Please don't drive past that, because that spirit working on overtime today, because that deity came up in divination, I want to say maybe 2 to 3 times for me this week. If you don't mind, because a lot of people, because I know the channel has people in different aspects and different places and spaces within their journey, right? So we have some people who are beginning their journey. We have some people who are just curious and they're drawn to it. You know what I mean? And then we have some people who may have already been through a couple of ceremonies. We have priests, priestesses, babalawos. Yeah, we have a lot of different people and a lot of different stages of their journey that watch, right? So for those who are beginning or who are newer to their journey, because even the people who have maybe, a certain level of knowledge of the tradition, they're not familiar with the outside of the major 7 or 8 Orishas, besides the major 7 and then probably Arumula. A lot of people aren't familiar. Even if you go into like the Babaluayes and the Ochosis, a lot of people are not familiar with some of the other powerful deities of the Arumale. So Oko is one that I don't hear a lot of people talking about. So real quick, I didn't mean to interrupt, but can you kind of drop a little knowledge on Oko before we go into the next level?
I'll put it to you like this. If you want to know about Orisha Oko, study Osiris of the ancient Kemet, because it deals with fertility on creating produce in the farmland. Now, you notice that Osir, a lot of times when they show the dead Osir, they show him being epithetic. That is, he's shown with having erect phallus. You look at Orisha Oko, and sometimes they have a phallic symbols. They literally have penises sticking up out of the ground and represent the fertility, the masculine energy that deals with bringing fertility to the crops and the farms. So Orisha Oko is important to the Yoruba, just like Orisha Oko would be important to the Kemites in the form of Osir. Why? Because these are both agricultural societies, and it was through agriculture in which they would make calendars. Agricultural societies are the ones who made the calendars, and often were by rivers and so on. You see, this is very important. Learn more about Orisha Oko. I learned about this in a particular Oriki that's found in Ejiogbe, where it identifies Orisha Oko with what they call the canoe star. You know, so I don't have the whole verse on cap right now, but eventually I would like to get into that and share that with you. But Orisha Oko is definitely connected to Septet or Sirius. You see, so Sirius, once again, it shows how Sirius is dealing with agriculture and fertility. So the beings that came from the stars showed us how to cultivate crops. You see what I mean? And then you got to go back into what it says in the solar book, the Helia Biblia, and it causes you to wonder, because this, when they were talking about Cain and Abel, it talks about how for some strange reason God had an issue with the fruit that he grew, but yet and still he took an animal for a sacrifice and said, oh, I like the way that burnt offering smells. Yo, Abel, hey man, you good, but Cain, you could do better than that. And I ain't feeling you. And next thing you know, the issue with the farmer and the shepherd. And that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with the teachings of the shepherd that basically came upon the land of the farmer. You see what I mean? So cultivation has a lot to do with cultivating and growing something. And what's interesting, in the Kemetic tradition, myrrh means cultivation, it means love, and it's also the word for the hoe, that is, that's used to cultivate the crops and till the soil. So you see, Tamari means the cultivated land. That's what it means. That's what it actually means. Now, I know people that interpret it differently. I'm not here to argue with you. What I'll just say is do this. Look and open up Ewa's Budge dictionary and study the meta for yourself, and you'll see what I mean. Mary. Mary also meaning beloved. Mary, hence the Virgin Mary. You see what I mean? The universe being fertilized gave birth to life. So the universe is the cosmic universal Mary. Marine. Hence, you got maritime law, because all was born from out of the cosmic ocean of nothingness. Hence, what did they call the navigators that settled in Andalus, in Al-Andalus in Spain, which was Al-Andalus, which is ancient Portugal and Spain, where the Moors traveled? And I'm going to talk about this. I want to do an episode with you. I don't want to get into this right now, but I want to talk about the African Atlantis. We're going to talk about that right now. Okay, I'm going to talk about that. Okay,
do what you do. Do what you do. But do what you do. I'm just here. I'm throwing alley oops. That's all. Just go ahead. You slam them down however you see fit. But I'm letting them loose. I'm going behind the look. Magic Johnson. Like, go ahead and get it.
For sure. You know, next episode, let's save that one. Okay. Yeah. Next episode, I want to give people a little bit of a tidbit. But look at the word more, right? They said amor is from Mauritania, but amor, myrrh. In ancient Kemetic, the word myrrh means love. It is the name of the pyramid. It's called a myrkut. And by the way, Tameri. And then they're talking about Atlantis being located by the Straits of Gibraltar, where they put it over there in either North Africa or between Africa and Spain. Well, the Moors navigated that area, and those Moors also traveled and they found a current that swept you from West Africa right to the coast of America, right over here into the Americas. So yes, they were traveling by boat back then, but we'll get into that a little later. You know, but as far as we want to talk about,
Baba, didn't Ivan Van Sertima went real hard on that in the book They Came Before Columbus, did he not? I think
yes, he did.
Okay. So
yes, he did. Yes, he did. You see. So you're looking at similar architecture in Kemet and in Mexico and around the world, and then you're looking at the feathered serpent, and they show the feathered serpent in the form of Echo, right, in the form of Uchat, who becomes Ejo, and then the word for snake in Yoruba is Ejo, same word. So I mean, you know, ain't no way you're gonna tell me that people lived in the same place for 45,000 years and never traveled with nowhere and didn't connect with other people and build nothing else. And we don't let the Arabs come and tell us that we ain't got nothing to do with the Nile Valley. And I'm looking at people's DNA, and it's talking about people coming from Kemet and Mercuria. There's a sister, I think she's on. She may be listening. She got ancestors from Kemet. There's sisters and brothers with ancestors from Kemet too. You know what I mean? Now, of course, a lot of us are from West Africa, of course, because they traveled there. I'm just saying that your ancestors go back so far. We done traveled all over the world and everything else. You know, but give yourself some props of being ancient, because they want you to identify with just maybe 2,000 years ago at the most. They don't want to take you all the way back to the beginning. They don't want to take you all the way back to the September, which they call the first time. They don't want to take you all the way back to the Big Bang. And there are many Big Bangs. Hell, there was Big Bangs within Big Bangs, because we live in a what kind of universe? Holographic universe. You see? So, the structures, the monuments, and all that, they anchor the cosmic frequencies on the Earth grid, right? We talked about that a little earlier. And also, I want to talk about that. Look up the pyramid text when you get a chance, right? The pyramid text suggests how the solar king Unas was mated into Orion, and he was transformed into a netter. He became a god. And it says in the Purnim Haruim Ger, the book of coming forth by day from night, that's been mislabeled the Egyptian book of the dead. It says, Ba-n-tur, meaning my soul is divine. My soul is a netter. You have an indwelling God within you. Your Ori is a netter. Or your Ori is an Orisha. Your stomach is an Orisha. And to tell you that men becomes Orisha, men and women turn into Orishas. So we become divine beings. Part of our evolution is to become gods. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not arrogant. It's just that in order to become a god, you have to transcend the ego. It's the other way around. You transcend the ego that's limiting you and keeping you here. It doesn't mean that you don't focus and pay attention to the fact that you have any type of identity and you're having this experience that got you to where you are today, because it's important. It's part of your story. And that's what you are. You're a story. That's why everybody has their own Odu. You're an energy pattern, you're a frequency, and you're a story. And you're here to tell that story. You know, sir. Remember,
Kabiesi.
Kabiesi. Kaue, 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 kabiusileo. Kaue, 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 kabiusileo. Obadi sele, shangu ilauro. Obadi sele, odoro ilauro. Yes, brother. So yeah,
I promise I was just having a conversation. Oh man, I think like within the last couple of days, and some of the same things that you're saying like was brought up in that conversation. But it's powerful, because what happened is I was sitting outside just chilling, and Kabiesi was cutting up. Matter of fact, I'm gonna have to edit that into like one of the. I might edit it into the one that I'm gonna drop tomorrow, but. It was powerful, bro, because I've seen this before, like where he just be up there, I mean, throwing bolts. Yeah. Like, you got to see it to believe it, though, because when I tell you, like, he get, bro, I'm talking about, like, you got to see it, because I be telling people stuff, but I think they think I just be exaggerating or I be stretching it out, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm kind of like putting more to the story than what it is, but no, everything I do my best to tell it exactly for how it was, because I know what I see, and I'm only going to speak what I see. I'm not going to take nothing away from nobody or nothing. Or those situations, I'm not going to give more, energy or to a situation either than it deserves or what it qualified for. But it's like, bro, I was just having that a very similar conversation about how powerful all these alignments are, and it's extremely powerful, especially right now. And shout out to I think it was Chloe Dior. She was saying, "Baba, where do you farm at?" So I wasn't sure if she was talking about like to you or to me, but. Do you farm currently, Baba Ptah? Just so I could kind of get that to that question answered for Chloe before we go further.
Closest I'm doing to farming right now is I'm growing my plants in my house. You know, I got the Obama dew plant that I utilize in my airway when I make on Miero, right? Sure. I'm growing aloe plants, but I'm not farming right now by myself. But I have worked with the community farms, and I did have a lot to do with the green movement back in 2010 when we were putting up community farms throughout Seattle, you see. But I'm doing a different type of farming right now. Right now, you know how they call it kindergarten, how you start to tap into the minds of the children. So I'm working on ways of connecting with young people because it's time to get those seeds to grow because they're already ready. You see, these are ancestors returning, but they're angry because the people that's supposed to be walking them through initiation are nowhere to be found.
That's facts. Yeah, and you know it's amazing how, like I say, it's always divine alignment. But I was just in a meeting yesterday with some powerful forces in their own right, all of them. Matter of fact, two of them, all of them, been on the channel before. But anyways, we were talking about that, man, because one of them is an elder, and he was sharing with us like how I guess there was a video going around about a bunch of young people in Memphis. And like the first day or week of school, and like the brother was like flashing money and had knots, you know, sending money, just like doing selfies and all kind of crazy stuff. And then like the females were walking around, I think like twerking or whatever, wearing blonde wigs, just wilding. But really, like what he was sharing, it literally speaks precisely to what you're talking about. Like we have to figure out a way to throw out the cast net to snatch up those who were chosen, those who were called, because I think for some of our people, the call went to voicemail instead of being delivered directly to the, no, seriously though, you know what I'm saying? Because I know for a fact, I guarantee you could probably point out 5 people on each finger right now on your hand that fit that, you know what I'm saying, that description, because they have everything and more to do, hell, probably more powerful work than we're doing, but they're just not tuned in to hearing the vibration of the phone when it's ringing, of the telepathic call, the spiritual, you know what I'm saying, like dial up. Like it's not being, the message isn't being answered. But that doesn't mean that these people aren't qualified with the gifts and the power and the ashe to do the work that they were sent here to do. It's just that they may have been distracted by all the current fuckery, excuse my French, but that's going on the planet that's kind of pulled them away from the divine call or the agreement that they created with, the Arumale in the ancestral realm, before we came down here to do this work. So it's a real thing. But I feel like, these types of conversations is going to not just send that energy and that information out into the universe, but we send it into, the stratosphere, all the spheres, because we're here. And that's what it is, man.
Atapu, brother, Kosi Impi, Alafia, Buru Buye, Aburu Buye. May your sacrifices be accepted.
I say.
The thing about it is bringing forth the memory. A lot of us, and a lot of the young people, sometimes you see to do things that suggest that there's still subconscious connections and memories. But we have to make sure that we're there to guide them, because Set, or the children of Set, they recognize Haru, the children of Haru, and they say, oh no, we got to misdirect these children. We know they poets and artists, so we got to corrupt their poetry and art, or we got to basically make it so that the poetry and art, we put the poison in their poetry and art and say, oh, well, you're not going to get paid unless you do it the way we say do it. You see what I mean? And a lot of these young people, all they want to do is express themselves. A lot of these people, they just want to express themselves because they're here to bring something to the world. They do have something to offer the marketplace. But the education system and everything else, plans on demonizing them because it's the way to try to murder the baby Haru and Het Haru. So it's the recollection of ancestral memory, where we forget our true nature and origin. And that is the dismemberment of Sar, the breaking up of Obatala and Orisha La, the scattering of the metaphysical, metaphorical 12 tribes of Is It Real? Or Isis Ra El, right? The shattered calabash. Full realization is a result of self-integration, the healing of the soul, and soul fragmentation, and leading to expression of the aura and the DNA, divine nature of our tomb, where one reaches inner peace. To reach inner peace is no longer to be in pieces. So we're dealing with galactic sovereignty. This is the full integration of all parts of the self and realizing oneself as a whole being. This is the fullness in which the Gnostics call the pleroma. Solarization is the process of activating the divine light that is encoded within your being. It's not just symbolic. It's energetic, ancestral, and cosmic. So yes, 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 I like that. Unique tribe. Tap on Uncle. So my it's we are organisms. We contain organs. Your organs make music. Organs make music. You're an organism. You have an anima. You have an animation aspect of you. You have an animating soul. So when you get into Chinese medicine and Ayurveda, which came from the ancients as well, you discover that each organ is connected to a musical note. Sound healing is an ancient and increasingly valid practice that's validated today and uses vibration and frequency to restore harmony within the body, mind, and spirit. They're finding where the temples of Sekhmet and parts of Kemet and temples where people were lay, and they could tell that they were utilizing sound to heal certain parts of a person. Hence, yes, incense. In fact, one of the ways that they used to call people to the temple was through the lighting of incense back around that time. So every organ, every cell, energy center in your body resonates at a specific frequency. And when these frequencies fall out of balance due to stress, trauma, illness, sound can be used to recalibrate them. And that's why it's important that we start to study music so that we can get a grip on our music, because it's the frequencies and the tones and frequencies that they've been using to hypnotize our people, to get our people to feel all depressed and don't know where it's coming from. But a beat sign at first, it keeps you like an upbeat sometimes, but the aftertaste has something to do with the tones and frequencies of the music that they keep playing. So you learn about the instruments like the drums, Tibetan singing bowls, tuning fork, gongs, and even the human voice. If you look at the hieroglyphic for Nefer, right, they say that it looks like a lute, but it's also the form of lungs and trachea, because the lungs and trachea is where the human voice come through. Where we supposed to be imitating the gods, just as the gods or the Neteru were able to create the universe with a divine utterance. They even say it in the Quran. They say Allah says, "Kun fayakun," being it is. So therefore, the Nomo talks about how water and word are interchangeable, because we're here to master words. And the Nomos say, those who are adherents to Sirius, that those who are finding their bodies full of sickness and diseases because they have tapped into the wrong words. They say this. So Tibetan, we talk about the Tibetan bowls, right? When you just play all the different musical tones and notes, we're talking about entraining the brain with forms of healing, like alpha, theta, delta waves. In African tradition, like the Yoruba, where the Orisha could be summoned as well as activated within by the soul and the rhythm of the drum, which lines up with the pulse and the heart.
Oof. Bye bye. Listen, you about to take us to another part of the galaxy. Before you do that, I had a brother who you was going down this lane, and then I wanted to be patient to try to find a spot to jump in and double dutch in real quick. But shout out to brother Yusuf Muhammad, because this question, I feel like you was driving, you had already had your signal on, and started turning into that, and then you were about to. So you mind dropping some knowledge on him with like answering that one for him, because I feel like you was already going in that lane, but I just want to see if we can get Brother Yusuf Muhammad's question answered.
What is this question? It's kind of
He
small.
says, what about the Edo people in Japan and Nigeria? The Japanese language and the Edo share 80% of the same words.
It's very interesting. In fact, I say that gives credence to the idea of the first dynasties of China being African, because there's some very similar languages throughout West Africa. Even, the Edo, they're not too far away from the Igbo people, right? And you notice how the Igbo they're called spirit chi, right?
Yep.
In the Bantu word for katana, they have a word for swords, which is katanga. So, yes, a lot of things that are similar, even the hats, the Fulani people, which are similar to the rice farmers of China and so on. So I believe that there's definitely an interaction between the Chinese. And I mean, I remember years ago when a martial artist was saying that they were at an event where there was like a world martial arts tournament. And when somebody had mentioned that martial arts came out of Africa, they mentioned that the Chinese did this, as they were bearing witness to the fact that there was truth to that. You see what I mean? So there's a connection between China and Africa, no doubt. We just got to make sure that people make that it's clear that that those who are returning back with the with the European way of thinking and seeing things don't come and exploit the continent and treat the people no different than everybody else that invaded. But yes, they found Chinese bottles. They found Chinese bottles in some of the tombs in ancient Egypt, in ancient Kemet. That is true. Orunmila is linked to the turtle. Shango is linked to the turtle. I believe Shango is the tortoise, Orunmila is the turtle, right? And according to the teaching of the I Ching, it says that the one who created the I Ching, he found the markings on the back of a turtle shell. And those became the 8 symbols of the trigrams used in divination. So yes, I believe that there's a connection. When you look at the armor of the Edo people and you look at the armor of the samurai, it's very similar. It's very similar. They got similar types of armor. And I remember years ago, someone had said, and I heard somewhere that it said that you were not considered a samurai, at least you, unless you had
African blood, right?
African blood in you
Sure.
somewhere.
Yeah.
So definitely, you know, right now the Chinese are literally down there in West Africa learning about Ifa. Now there's a story about how Orunmila went to the Fulani people, and the Fulani people were fighting over opium. And because they were fighting, bickering over opium, Orunmila got frustrated, only gave them half of the system, right? We got 16 Odu. How many trigrams do they have in the I Ching system?
16? 8? Okay.
They got 8, right? So therefore, our 16 makes 256 combinations. Thank you. And theirs makes 64 combinations because they only got half the system. You see what I mean? But they call those patterns the 8 immortals. They're connected to the 8 immortals. Well, we got the 8 immortals in Kemet, and that is connected with what we call the Menphite cosmology, where you have the 4 female with the snake heads and the 4 males with the frog heads, and basically that's Amenet, Nunet, Kuket, Hu, and Huhet, right? But check this out. They recognize the divine patterns that brought forth creation. The Nomo called those ancestors. And guess what? Guess who else got that story hidden right in plain sight? That's the story of Noah's Ark, where he's got his 8 family members, him, his wife, and he got his 3 sons and their wives, and that's the 8 that brought forth creation. You see, there goes that number again, that number 8. Remember, we're dealing with the Lion's Gate.
Yeah.
On the day of the 8.
Listen, wait, because you be dropping so many jewels, man. It's like it's hard for me to keep up. So I know some of the people who might be newer in their journey. It's a challenge. So when you drop that 8, though, when you hit a moon, Amenet, Nunet, Huket, and Kuket, you talk about the unseen, the seen, the matter, the space, the infinity, the finite, and the darkness and the light. So you're talking about like the dualities of polarities from a cosmic and from, you know what I'm saying, a planetary level. Is that not correct?
Correct. For real, yes.
Okay.
That's exactly what we're talking about. Because how the universe works. And that's how they were able to develop these binary systems of divination, because they're connected to the 8 spirits or the 16 spirits that were here in the beginning. You see what I mean? You know, and then there are also 8 kings of Samaria that represented, who are the descendants of Anunnaki, and they said that they ruled for like thousands of years each. So the bottom line is that, you know, the knowledge is universal. It's just told and expressed in different ways, right? So again, we're talking about being and connecting with the music, with the sound vibration, with the universe, and being able to call a command or send a command and bring things into existence. It says that Ptah was a coalescence of these 8 spirits, and they coalesced into Ptah. And Ptah brought creation into being with a divine utterance. There's also the story of Ptah with Sekhmet. Ptah and his consort Sekhmet, they create the eternal, they maintain the cosmic fire that bring forth the sweetness in the form of Nefertum, later on identified with Imhotep.
Yes, sir. And if I'm not mistaken, Imhotep is accredited to being one of the first, if not the first, engineer to kind of build the first, the step pyramid, correct?
Exactly. So just like Imhotep became a netter, just like we become Orisha. The thing about it is that the whole idea is that you realize your own divinity and see that you are connected with these very forces of nature. However, when we pass away, according to those who are familiar with Orisha tradition, let's say that, you know, if you're a child of Shango, then you become one with the Shango-ness out there in the environment. or the Yemayanis or Yemojanis or whatever. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So the thing about it is each and every one of us have a role to play because each and every one of us is divine aspects of consciousness. So the idea of having galactic awareness is when you can sit still and expand. Even in the Sun book, the Helios Biblius, according to that, it talks about in the book of Psalms, sit still and know that I am God. You're sitting still and you're allowing all this movement to take place and see that you're sitting in the center of the storm. Because when reality is that stillness and that silence is when you begin to get the downloads, when you're in a state of inner peace. That's why I say do not try to stop your thoughts from coming when you're meditating. A lot of people have a tendency of trying to like stop their thoughts. Don't do that. Just ignore your thoughts. And your thoughts, they call it the monkey mind. Now you can give it something to do, like there's the microcosmic orbit. When you breathe in through the nose and you breathe the energy upwards and breathe it down and back. Or sometimes you could do it in reverse. Breathing it up and breathing it downward. And you circulate in the breath because you're giving your mind something to do, right? And eventually all the chatter and all that other stuff begins to go away, like whether or not you need to pay the bills and when you got to pay the bills and how your boss pissed you off and all that other stuff. That'll go away and you start getting some messages from the divine. You start seeing visions and so on, okay? But you got to get beyond all the worries, all that that's keeping you caught up in past and future, and then focus on the now. It is the now that we call the present. It's a present because it's the gift, and that's your precious gift of immortality.
Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, and Coach, yeah, spot on, man. That's facts. Buddha was black. The samurais, you couldn't be a samurai unless you had African blood in you, melanated blood in you. It's deep. Matter of fact, are you familiar with any of the artifacts and monuments that was found in the? Because I don't believe I asked you this question before. I think I might have asked a couple guests, but not you. Are you familiar with the artifacts and the monuments that were found in the Grand Canyon here in America, where they found all those Buddhist statues? They found Kemetic like shrines and I want to say like busts to like almost pharaonic, like pharaoh looking busts. Like it was a lot of discoveries that were found in the Grand Canyon. But I know me personally, this was years ago. I saw it hit the net, and when I went to do some more research on it, it's like they kind of like wiped out and erased everything. I couldn't really find too much more on it after that first initial kind of like I guess leakage or however it hit the internet or what have you. But I actually saw and have pictures somewhere. I got to find them where there was a lot of different, like I said, Buddha, like temples and shrines, as well as Kemetic cultural temples and shrines as well in the Grand Canyon.
You know, a lot of people are trying to say that that's pseudo history, but here's the thing. Here's the issue. National Geographic and Smithsonian have been lying to us and covering stuff up for a long time. You see, because they got to make you think that the world has been, people are just disconnected until the European came and started teaching things and civilizing people, right? That's the narrative. So, I saw the pictures back in the day of the Buddha, and I wouldn't be surprised because you see, like I said, they have been coming over here by boat. Now, why do they want to hide this from us so much? Why not just come out and tell us, right? Because too much knowledge will empower you. And they don't want people to feel empowered. They want people to feel less than, so you can keep on going and buying bullshit that you don't need. But the thing about it is this. Buddha, if you take the first part of Buddha, the word is bud. Bud means to open, means to blossom, right? So they say he's the enlightenment, but it also means he is the one who has unfolded. And by the way, Ptah means the opener too. There's the 8 principles of Buddha, right? Was that right? Knowledge, right? Focus, right? There are these 8 principles that the Buddha had.
Yes,
right?
sir. It reminds me of Tahuti, of those. Yeah.
Yes. And remember, there's a connection between Tahuti and Ptah. Tahuti being the heart of Ptah. So you could become a Ptah or a Buddha because it basically means the same thing. And in fact, in Ethiopia, there are a group of people who have the mysteries of metallurgy. And guess what they're called? They're called Buddhas.
Remind me of Bone Thugs and Harmony back in the day. Buddha lover.
Right. You know? Yeah, so it still survives. Buddha he's the opener. Ptah is the opener. And by the way, it survives in Islam's al-Fatah, means the opener. It's just when you say open, you say open the door. You say Efta al-Bab. You say open the door. Efta and Ptah and Buddha. It's the same thing. Okay? But the thing about it is that they're going to divide things up and keep you separated because they don't want you to know how universal knowledge works because they can't have you connected. They got to keep you separated. Even look at how they got people bickering about these traditions. Man, I'm not going to argue with you about whether Legba and the Legba are different or the same. That's why I call it the multiverse. This is the African multiverse. And we're access to African multiverse. Hell, I mean, shoot. And what's found over there is found over here. And you look at the doggone cosmology and the Hopi cosmology, and they're just about the same thing. That means that, you know, what we think is separate has been connected in the holographic universe in which we live in.
Facts. That's facts.
See? So, you know, I'm going to talk about something else too. And going back to the sound, because they say Ptah, right, uttered a sound to bring forth existence. Ra, if you look at the sound Ra, it's got the sound vibration. The hieroglyph is made up of a disc with a dot in it to make up his glyph. And then there's the arm, and then there's the mouth. That mouth is not a human mouth. That mouth is the mouth of a fish. You see, speaking to the ocean of nothingness. Why? Because in order for sound to travel, it needs a medium, and that medium has to be moisture and air. That's the medium in which sound is traveling through. So in space, they say you can't make a sound in a vacuum. So they're saying that if you was to scream and shout in space, nothing is going to hear you, supposedly, because there's nothing there. But that's what they're saying, right? So we look at the word personality. The sound can change. Sound can change your personality. Personality contains the word person. Person comes from the Latin word persona, meaning mass. But when you break it down and further into persona, it means through sound. So when the Vaishnava, the Hare Krishnas, talking about the eighth incarnation of Lord Vishnu, how he's the supreme personality of Godhead and the supreme person, they're saying he embodies the highest frequency. So each and every one of us are embodiments of frequencies as well.
And would that not tie into another cultural, spiritual, I guess, system where they say in the beginning was the word?
Exactly.
Okay.
The word was God and the word was made flesh, right?
Listen.
They say you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Remove the S and what does it become? Word. That's why they say my word is bond no matter to whom or what. That's why you got to be careful who you give your word to, because that word can become a sword and be used against you.
Yes, that's facts. Yes,
See,
sir.
that's what they meant. You live by the sword, you died by the sword, because the sword represents an oath that you take. If you were a knight, you took an oath.
That's deep. Real quick, Baba. Shout out to Bethel Yah. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, family. But the question, this is a really good question. I wanted to pose this one too. So the question is, are you saying that, excuse me, even if someone is diagnosed with a rare terminal brain disease, they can be healed by sound?
I believe so. I actually believe so. It's just
agree.
to find the right frequency. Okay. You see, now here's the thing. I'm not going to sit up here and tell you that I'm an eyewitness to it, but I believe that if you find the right sequence and frequency, you'll be able to heal just about anything. There's actually a lady that was curing cancer through sound. It's called A Cure for Everything, I believe. And she literally had an electronic device that would make sound and was curing and getting rid of cancer. There's also a machine called the Rife machine. Look it up on YouTube. I'm gonna tell you something. I was listening to Rife frequencies, right? When I first got back from the military, my knees were jacked up. I felt like I had the knees of a 78-year-old, and I was only in my 30s. So after I started listening to the Rife frequencies, the pain and everything else has left my knees. I feel like I can run track again. I have the pain in my knees is totally gone, right? You know, so yes, you can cure through sound. It's just the fact that we have to find the frequencies, because if you look at all of our ancient traditions, including in the Hebrew text, it's talking about learning how to sing these names of God because they're frequencies. The 72 names of God, the Shem Hampharish, and the one name of God. How do you know that if it wasn't said at the right frequency, it could do just about anything?
That's facts.
You see?
Yes,
so in fact, You know, the Hebrews, they have what they say the sacred 4 syllables when they would do certain festival, and everybody would be banging on, making bells and triangles and sounds because they didn't want people to hear the sacred sound being uttered in the tabernacle, because that was only meant for the priests, because the sound was considered so sacred. That's why it says, do not take the Lord in your name in vain, because they're talking about a frequency that you don't want to abuse. Because if you use it and abuse it, if you don't treat it right, it loses its power. Just like you know, people who utilize oils to go into trance, for instance. If you was to utilize lavender, it'll put you in a certain quality of trance, but you take it into your meditations and rituals. If you use that for anything else, it will stop having the same effect. But if you use it in your rituals, right? When you get to the point that you smell lavender, when you pass by someone who has it on, or it's burning in the shop, you will automatically go into trance. You see.
That's deep.
So you're talking about higher states of consciousness and awareness. These states are associated with deep relaxation, emotional release, cellular regeneration, because the body is composed mostly of water. Sound waves travel efficiently through water, influencing the nervous system and lowering the cortisol, which causes you to become all out of shape and everything else, and all the chemicals to be thrown off of balance if you have cortisol build up because of stress. All the fear they keep on pumping into people if they keep listening to the crap that they're putting out there all the time. So it lowers cortisol and it activates the vagus nerve, which promotes emotional balance. It's because going up and down the spine, up down the jet pillar, in which you activate that energy and you become a Jedi. And the Yoruba word for Jedi would be Alashe, one who is a master of Ashe. So beyond the physiological effects, sound healing opens gateways to altered states of consciousness and spiritual insight. Practices like vocal toning, rhythmic drumming, sound baths, all that induce trance-like states where individuals experience ancestral contact, right? Soul remembrance, energetic liberation, where it basically expand out of your bodies and beyond. A lot of people who sit still long enough and meditate and breathe right, they report they feel like they're floating over their bodies, because the fact of the matter, you're expanded beyond that level of consciousness, because you're not really your body. Your body is an expression in a vehicle and for the spirit to travel through. So many report visions and spontaneous healing in the sense of being tuned to a higher frequency. And in this way, sound becomes a bridge between the physical and subtle realms. And it's the technology vibration that not only soothes the body, okay, but also awakens the soul. As a lot of people love to use that quote from Nikola Tesla. He says, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of sound, frequency, and vibration, or energy, frequency, and vibration. Sound healing is a living embodiment of that truth. So everyone can get together and chant. Om. It's the same as Om. So Om. That's right. Yeah. The Black Madonna is our set. Maximum Rising. That is true. The Black Madonna is our set. Our set, or Ast, represented the divine throne. Just like the calabash represents the sacred mother, or Dudua, of Yoruba tradition, the Ark of the Covenant is Mary. That is her aspect. That's their aspect of Odu, with the 10 Commandments having to be in the Ark. And they get replicas of the Ark in certain types of churches. So you're dealing with the Virgin Mary. Once again, Mary representing cultivation and love. They got it translated to mean armies. That's ridiculous. It doesn't mean army. It means love. The same meaning in Hebrew and Syrian and in ancient Kemetic. They all have the same meaning. It means love. It means beloved, because that's the force that holds everything together. Love, merut. And when you take the word mer, which means love, and cultivation, spell it backwards, it gets rem, which means tears. And each and every one of us, those in ancient Kemet, or those who are considered connected to Ra, were considered the teardrops of Ra. And Nubians are said to be from the semen of Ra. So Africans are basically Afrakans, that is, those who are the flesh and spirit of Ra, are basically the children and descendants of Ra, children and descendants of the sun. And if you don't believe me, the Yoruba are called Omorum, which means the children of the sun. Same thing. Or the children of heaven, right? I'm a Zulu, children of heaven. Once again, we see ourselves as being connected to the higher planes, even in our language and how we define ourselves. It's just that people are not talking about what these things actually mean. Bantu, they say that's the language, but it breaks down into those who walk on two legs. But they call God Muntu, which means one who walks on two legs. So you are in a living image of God. They call Ntu, which is God in the Bantu language. And then it becomes Nter in Kemet, it becomes Netter. And then it goes into the Latin language, it becomes nature. So the conservation of the life force, often referred to as prana, ashe or chi, across the various traditions is the sacred art of preserving and directing one's vital energy towards higher purpose and spiritual alignment. In the yoga philosophy, it's talking about the embodiment of the principle of the brahmacharya, which encourages mindful restraint and intention living to prevent the dissipation of energy through access and distraction and indulgence. So a lot of young men were talking about in ancient India to become brahmacharis, you know, at some point in time in their life, so they can cultivate this energy and learn chastity and so on, and expand their energy, right? All of this has to do with basically becoming disciplined and being able to cultivate and utilize the life force. There are times that you may want to go on a fast, and sometimes the fast is music. Sometimes the fast is letting a bunch of people touch you. Sometimes the fast is just staying by yourself for a little bit and being quiet and just allowing yourself to be. Being it is, kun faya kun. So rather than suppressing desire, though, there's a practice that invites us to refine desire by channeling your passions and your thoughts and actions into pathways that nourish the soul and elevate consciousness. Breathwork, pranayama, movement, asana, and meditation become tools to circulate and concentrate the life force, allowing it to regenerate the whole entire body and clarify the mind, as well as awaken your latent faculties, your spiritual faculties. So when you look at Ron Efraim's work, they talk about 10 faculties, right? And these 10 faculties each represented by a netter. You got the top, you know, sir, you got sicker, and you got Tahuti, or excuse me, you got Asar, you got Tahuti, you got sicker, and you got Herakuti, then you got Ma'at, or you got Ma'at, then you got Herakuti, then you got Haru, then you got, you know, Heteru, then you got Sebek, then you got Aset, then you got Geb, right? All of these different Neteru representing aspects within the tree, a divine cosmology of each netter being within your very being. And all you have to do is call upon them and activate. Because here's the thing. Now, there's some that talk about the Neteru being beings from other worlds. Here's the thing. That's not necessarily wrong either. There's validity because the Neteru are within you and around you. The Neteru can take any form or shape they want to. And you also have light beings. You got beings of light that takes the form of any form they need to in order to get your attention. There are beings that come here and visit us from far away. And this is why when you do your meditation and when you forgive yourself and let go of hatred and anger, and you work with yourself a certain way, remove blockages through stretching, yoga, martial arts, qigong, then you begin to align your energy and expand your magnetic field. And these beings can then see you and locate you. There are people who have been known to practice energetic work who appear on a freaking radar. So on a multidimensional level, conserving life force is essential for maintaining energetic sovereignty and activating one's divine blueprint. When prana is scattered, that is when chi, when sekam, when ashe is scattered to overstimulation and unresolved trauma or unconscious habits, it becomes difficult to access this inner guidance, ancestral memory, or cosmic intelligence. Rituals of purification, grounding, and intentional force. It focuses. It helps us seal energetic leaks and restore coherence and bring forth balance and expansion of the auric field. Have you ever been around someone and you notice that you're always tired around this person? It's because this person have holes in their aura. So when you chant Om or Om, it's not Om, just Oms. Om or Om, you're sealing up the holes in your aura and you're making your aura stronger. It's more than just oming because you want enlightenment, okay? What you're doing is that you're strengthening your aura and you're making it stronger. So when you walk into a room, people will feel that. And half the times they'll look back to see what it is they're feeling coming into the room. A lot of times it's subtle. They'll sense it. They'll automatically walk in, right? You can feel a person from a mile away. Remember, there's quantum entanglement. A lot of times you can sense when somebody is calling you from a mile away. You can sense who's calling you before you even get to the phone. You know, that's my auntie, you know, because or you're close to someone you spend time with. And then when your phone start ringing, it's them, you know it's them. Okay?
That's facts. That's real facts. Matter of fact, it just happened with me today. I think I was texting somebody, but I was talking about, or I was thinking about my pops, and I promise you, within not even, I'll say maybe 20, if that, seconds, he texts me. But that happens a lot, you know what I mean, with different people too, because, you know, I look at it like this. I asked somebody, I don't know what the context of the conversation was, but it came down to one of the points that I was trying to make about how energy or frequencies and sound waves and all these different types of communications are delivered. Think about the whole entire process of a text message, or better yet, even an email, whichever one. You know, we type up this whole little, like the Benjamin Paul Bamboro, you know what I mean? Like they typed up that whole little, you know, message and comment, and then boom, it instantly appears in a different space and time, right? So
Right.
why would we not be able to do that if we were the creators of that, you know, who created the program that runs the program that programs what's happening now, right? So it's
Right.
like we got to really think about the sheer genius that the creator already gave us, you know what I mean, and really take that and elevate that to the best of our abilities.
Facts. Facts. I'm looking at a brother that
Yeah, I wanted to
Benjamin
bring that
Paul.
one. That was a good. I thought that was a good comment. I was talking about like
There.
the sounds and healing frequencies that could be found on YouTube. But you answered that question to, I don't know if it was a sister or brother, about how healing, or could a person be healed from a terminal. I feel like, I think it was, I don't know if it's an injury or a terminal illness or whatever the case may be. But I wholeheartedly agree with you on that, because I feel like that goes back to, excuse me, the power and the significance of prayer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I
Definitely.
was just having this conversation, I think, either earlier today or yesterday, and it was about taking control of our realities or our experiences. I'm like, yo, we are children of the universal prime creator. Therefore, we have the authority to create our experience, but we have to be convicted and intentional and demand, you know what I'm saying, the energy that we send out to the universe to
Right.
be at its will and to manifest as we sent it out there to do so. If you send it out
Mm-hmm.
there with a half, I want this, or this, could this happen? Or, you know what I'm saying? That ain't nothing
Right.
gonna happen like that. But when you send it out
Right.
there, I demand, like, this is what it is. This is what it's gonna be. That's it. So be it. It is done. I say, like, when you put it out there with
Ashe.
that kind of energy and that kind of force, that kind of authority, then yes, you're going to activate the laws of nature, the laws of attraction, the laws of magnetism. Right? Is that not what Shango represents, Kabiesi?
SEO. You
Hmm.
know, I connect with Shango through Idigbe. That's where the drum comes to the planet. So
Hmm.
dealing with drums and rhythm and beats and sound, Shango is all about that. He's the thunderbolt, for crying out loud. So yes, he brings forth creation with a roar. He has stopped things with a roar. He strike you down with a thunderbolt. So that's what you're hearing in the sky. You're hearing the frequencies in the sky. You're hearing the thunders. You're hearing the friction within the clouds. And here's something else that people need to understand, is how friction contributes to life itself. You came here because of friction. For those who practice Ifa, it is rubbing their akin together and generating the friction as they're trying to get their prayers answered through Ifa. And by the way, when you deal with Buddhism, they do the same thing with their beads. They take the beads and rub them together and generate the friction. So yes, you're here and you bring things into manifestation by generating friction. When you speak, the sound, the vibration is generating friction throughout the medium of the subatomic, or should I say, the water molecules around you. It's all about generating friction. You see, so you have to have some friction in order for things to work. There has to be a spark. This is why Set is showing bullying Haru. But you know what? You go to a temple, I believe it's in Kamombo, they show Set showing how to aim, showing Haru how to aim his bow and arrow. Because you see, it is challenges that helps us fine tune ourselves so that we can get to the next level.
Sure.
So,
Yes, sir.
there's been a lot of science. They've been getting more into quantum healing. They've been looking at what is consciousness? Can it be imitated and mimicked through data in the form of AI? These are questions that they're beginning to ask more and more. because around the time of Obama, they went off of the Human Genome Project. They stopped putting so much money towards the Human Genome Project and started putting millions of dollars into consciousness and studying consciousness and the nature of consciousness. Also, since 2020, there's been there's the Ratcliffe wave discovery. It's a massive galactic structure of star-forming regions that the solar system passed through 14 million years ago, impacting each climate that is Earth's climate today. On the planets is impacting all of our planetary climates. So that could also be the blame for our global warming too. A lot of times they want to put it on people and say, "Oh, it's your fault." They want to blame farmers and saying that the cows are doodling too much and releasing CO2 into the atmosphere and creating and bringing forth destruction to the planet. And cows been doodling for millions of years. So get that shit out of here. You see what I mean? People be lying all the time, putting fear into you. So that's the thing. I just got to keep it real, bro. They be coming out with
Listen,
some weird shit, and people
I'm
be like,
laughing
"Listen,
because look, it sounds like a
see,
bunch of malarkey to me. It sounds like a bunch of malarkey.
you know."
Like, come on, man. Like, stop playing. Like, you come on. You really think we stupid? Like, come on, don't play. Don't play.
That's it. But
Mm-mm.
yeah, they've been telling us lies all the time. They said that somebody was cutting up green monkeys and the blood got on them, and that's how AIDS came out of Africa. You know what I
I
mean?
remember hearing that bull. Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
hearing that bullshit too. Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, okay, so they traced this back. How now? You know, yeah, all kind of stuff. Anything to keep you in fear. And where it's melanated people, they want you to think that there's something, to frown at and look down at.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? When it's the melanated people that's been most connected to the earth. Now you got Europeans coming out and beginning to admit that there's something to melanin. There's something
Mm.
to that. There's something
Yeah.
to dark matter consciousness.
You
You
can't
see what I
deny it.
mean?
Yeah.
So they got to come out. They got to keep it real because no matter what they have tried to do to us, you know what I mean? They see that it always comes back on them some kind of way. You
Mm.
can't just get rid of the original people on the planet. You can't
Mm-mm.
do that,
Mm.
without harming yourself. Because you
Mm-mm.
see, you always got to bring that melanin back into your gene pool some kind of way,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So,
Because if not, you're going to be operating from a mutated inferiority complex, in regards to the whole biological and genetic makeup. I mean, that just is what it is. And this look, I got to quote Professor Kaba on this. This is science. Don't take it personal. This is science. Like the universe is made up of, and I'm pretty sure you're a very sharp fella, got a very sharp mind, Baba. What is the makeup of the universe in regards to dark matter?
I believe
It's
they
like what,
said, well, like between 70 and 80%, you
70 and
know,
80% of the universe is made
made
up
up of
of
dark.
dark matter.
Right,
Okay.
right.
And that dark
That's
matter and dark energy, how does that, is that not, how is like the composite of melanin not deeply embedded into that dark matter?
indeed, indeed. And that's the thing, you know. So when they say that there's emptiness around us and they say that there's empty space, is it really empty?
Hmm.
The beings that people see visiting them and coming out of nowhere, what makes you think they're not hiding in dark matter?
Hmm.
And
Or
dark
even
matter
hiding
is none
that at
other
all. Kind of, I would say cloaking, because I don't think them
smoking. There
beings
you
ain't
go.
hiding nothing.
That's true. Yeah, they're in a pocket universe that's hidden in dark matter, or should I
Yeah.
say, they're in Aminta. They're in a hidden
Yes,
land.
sir.
You see,
Yes, sir.
so that's what makes them immortal because they're not stuck in time and space. They're in a pocket universe where they can move in and out. Just like what we're doing is that sometimes you'll see things move in and out of your frequency range, and that's what's happening. They can move in and out of frequency range while we're stuck between heaven and earth until we reach the perfect state. You see? So we've been doing this for quite some time. There's no beginning, there's no end. And the beginning and end is just an illusion, right?
Mm.
We talk
Yes.
about there's the Akashic field. The
Yes, sir.
Akashic field, there's been talking about the Akashic field a lot lately, and which is a non-physical dimension that stores the vibrational records of the soul through emotion and experience across time. It's derived from the Sanskrit word akasha. And by the word akasha is in a form of a black egg. So if you get into like metaphysical teachings at a metaphysical bookstore, you're going to see the akasha in the form of a black egg, and they got the different elements. But it's interesting because this black egg, it's an egg because it symbolizes that it's the beginning of something, right? So when you get into the Yoruba tradition, it's talking about or Yigi Yigi, which is the immovable rock. You say, oh, Yigi Yigi, Otami, oh, Yigi Yigi, Otami. It talks about the immovable rock, and the immovable rock in the beginning split into 4 sections. And those 4 sections begin to divide into 16 parts. But here's the thing, even the movement and division is all illusory because locality is illusory. You see what I mean? The immovable rock represents the aspects of ourself and the being that is unchangeable, that cannot be changed, that cannot be destroyed. It can only continue to go through changes. Just like your spirit is unconditioned. It cannot be conditioned, but it can go through conditions. And this is why you can channel and connect with cosmic consciousness and galactic awareness, because your spirit in its highest form, we call it Ori Ipanri, that is yourself in heaven, yourself in the highest level, is not conditioned. And that is where you channel the information that comes down. They call this also connected with the Apere and connected with Ella, which is the spirit of purity, which is also Rumala in spirit form.
Ooh, okay. Look, message. All right, I'm gonna take a quick break because we got another we got another question, and right now we doing exactly what I knew was gonna happen, is burning down the net, man, because this is definitely one of them ones, man. I already knew it was gonna be, and I'm grateful to make sure that we seen it through and it came to fruition. So with that, Baba, I'll have you I'll throw this one to you first, and then I don't even know if I really need to answer it, but I definitely want to give you first dibs on it. When it comes to pranic healing, what is your take or your perspective on that?
Just like any other spiritual modality, you got to cultivate it. You see, I had got into the cousin of pranic healing that's called Reiki back in, I say, 1994. I got attuned with it when I was before I turned 20. I was between 19 and 20 when I first got attuned to Reiki. And pranic healing, I ran across that a little bit later. You see, I think it's a powerful system from what I can see. The person who invented the pranic healing system is also an Asian brother, like the one who invented the Usui system of Reiki. But the idea of hands-on healing goes all the way back to the ancients, all the way back to the melanated beings that look like us. Either way, that's neither here nor there. The fact of the matter is that when you cultivate that energy, you got to start utilizing it. You got to cultivate your prana. Sit, breathe, and manifest prana, and keep using it. And then the stronger that connection will get. If you want to see some aspect of prana, when you see Shango strike a tree, or when you see a thunderstorm, after that thunderstorm clears up, go and sit outside and soak up the negative ions. That's a prana of its own, and that will charge you up. You can experience natural prana when you go out into the wooded areas, out into the forest, out by the water, out in the mountains, away from the cities. You see, because that's when you're connecting with the Orishas, because you're connecting with that raw energy. It's not the positive ions. You want negative ions. Because when you're in the city, all the air conditioning and the technology that literally sucks the negative ions out and replaced with positive ions. So as far as prana, it's your life force. The more powerful the prana, the more powerful your auric field. Utilize what they call pranayama. Learn how to utilize the pranic breath, breathing into the nose and out the mouth and sitting still, and breathing into the nose, right? And allowing your stomach to be filled with air. And then when you breathe out, you suck your stomach completely in. But do not breathe in through the mouth. You can breathe out through the mouth, breathe in through the nose, and then breathe out of the mouth or breathe out of the nose. Do not breathe in through the mouth, okay? You circulate the energy through your nasal cavity and it goes all the way down and it oxygenates your blood and everything else. So therefore, you're sucking in, you're taking in the prana. We're supposed to feed our prana, so prana also comes from the sun as well.
Yeah, that's powerful, man. Listen, so I had one question or one comment that I wanted to bring up too, because I think this was a good one. I think this is something that you will have something to chime in with. So shout out to Benjamin Paul Bamboro. Tahuti says sugar and carbs plus THC makes dati soot, dark matter in the brain, which can be used with healing frequency for super heals. Does
Mm.
that mean anything, or does that trigger anything for you, Baba Ptah?
I do know that you need a certain amount of sugar. You
Hmm.
know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's pretty dope though, as far as connecting with the dark matter to the brain, because you see, when you open up the brain, you see the eye of Haru when you open it up on the side.
Yes.
So the eye of Haru exists within the brain.
Yeah.
Tahuti exists within the brain. That's why
Yeah.
your brain exists within the sacred temple. And what's in the temple other than God?
Mm.
Your
Mm.
Orion.
Mm. Yes, sir. Yeah, that's deep. Yeah, because if you think about it, and shout out to Dr. Richard King, who has one of my favorite pieces of work on the black dot in the eye of Heru. Very powerful piece. He breaks down like the whole entire, between the pituitary gland, the pineal gland, and there was one more. I can't remember the other one, but he breaks down how all of those are like different doors or different chambers going into, that super consciousness, going into the Eye of Heru. Like it's a powerful piece of work. I love that piece of work. But with that, before we get out of here, because I got get up super early in the morning, but I want to make sure that we deliver all that we set out to do to the tribe, man. Especially being that it's been a little while since I've been in these Ashe streets on live stream. So with solarization and the galactic elevation of consciousness and awareness, right? That like I said, that when you told me about that the first time we spoke about, I'm like, yeah, that's powerful. You also, if I'm not mistaken, had a couple of, I don't know if it was prayers or orikis that you had cooked up to go along with this particular title. Was that for this one, or was that for the one that we cooking up for the next one, which you was sharing with me?
Ah, yes, then these are dealing with my prayers of ascension. Yes, I've been working on those for a minute, and the thing about it is that a lot of times people are kind of leery about things appearing to be mixed. But the
I'm about
thing
to jump
about it,
off.
I'm
Get them.
saying bring in the pieces. We about to bring in the pieces of Asar back together. All right. So on inter and Butwa winter, on inter and Turung Asar Minra, and that's a locked in a tepmuter, Pa Benitu Abenitu. In a temple will Sir we rise, the light of Ma'at we align, in the waters of Olokun we remember, in the winds of our moon we ascend. Let every codon unlock the ancestral memory, let every strand towards divinity. Me, Wani knew me, my creator dwells within me. Ma'at by me, lo, may Ma'at walk with me. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Alo to my bo me, on me ti kolewe. Divine creator, hear us. Water that cannot be washed, we bow to the realm before time, to the deep blue womb of existence, to the sacred currents of Olokun. Olokun, keeper of mystery and wealth, and the deepest abyss. Olokun Baba Omi, Bo Adorawa. Olokun, father of the waters, mother of the waters, hear our prayer, fill us with ancestral memory and treasures unspoken. It is Olokun that works as the Akashic records. It is Olokun that works as the waters of nothingness. We give thanks and praise to the Mami Wata spirit, spirit of seduction and healing. Yi Mami Wata, Kyo mi reshe abe o mi. Mami Wata, may your waters visit us with grace. Let your shimmer awaken our forgotten gifts. Omi tutu, cool water. Where's my calabash? Uh-oh. I put my calabash up.
I say,
Anyway,
oh,
we'll just visualize the water coming down. Omi tutu. Omi alafia. Mami wata jeki ni sa mobi. Yomo ja jeki ni jobi ere omi. Ologun jeki enle. Biohuna baye. Before the sky there was water. Before the word there was vibration. And in the belly of vibration, Olokun stared where we return. Not to the past, but to the timeless ocean where the gods do not sleep and spirits do not forget. Let our DNA resonate with the rhythm of the tides, and let our spirit ripple with the voice of the waves, and let our Merkaba be baptized in the deep blue waters of rebirth. We praise the river, the river, the Nile. We praise the sea. of eternal nothingness. We praise the sea. We praise the mystery. Ashe, ashe, ashe. Ebo, me, oh me. Spirits of water, we honor you. Oda, it is done.
Yes, listen, shout out to Benjamin Paul, man. He been dropping some jewels in the chat, man. I wanted to bring that one up, family. In fact, let me just bring it up. Please bring these last few up before we get out of here. But he been dropping jewels in the chat. But yeah, that was powerful, man. And I look forward to the next one because listen, we got some meals cooking up in the pots, man. We definitely cooking up this food for thought, mind, body, and soul in these Akshay streets. So I'm looking forward to the next one. Bye bye. And man, this was definitely it was everything that I knew it would be, you know, and I was looking forward to it. It's a lot of things that tried to keep it from happening. A lot of things tried to slow it down, and you know what I mean, like roadblock and try to detour us and all those other things that be happening. But you can't stop what the Creator set out for, you know, the creation to do. You know what I mean? And we are the child and the children of the universal prime creator. So therefore, we came here to do what we came here to do, and there ain't nothing gonna stop it by any means necessary. So we're gonna make that happen all day, every day. And with that, bye-bye. What you got for the tribe, man, before we get up out of here? Because that was a powerful piece. I feel like it was a mic drop, but I know you, and I feel like there's a lot. There might be some more that you might want to, some more flames you might want to spit before we get out of here, man. So I'm gonna give you the floor to make, you know, let you do what you got, whatever's in your ori to do.
Baba Shango, we gotta pay homage to Baba Shango. You tell him Majuba Gadaba Majuba. Baba Shango, we salute you 13 times. You tell him Majuba Gadaba Majuba. Kabi is city. You tell him Majuba Gadaba Majuba. Afonja, you tell him Majuba Gadaba Majuba. Shango, Aviosu, you tell him Majuba Gadaba Majuba. Yeah, babe. You tell him Majuba Gadaba Majuba. We give thanks and praise to the one who does not hang, the one who did not die. We ask that the Orisha in the sky continue to bring us fire. Bring us the fire too, burning away all impurity. We give thanks and praise to you, Baba Shango. We say, Ka wo, Ka BSO. I said, Baba Eshu. Give thanks and praise to Baba Eshu. Baba Eshu. When your mother named you, she gave you out of the message. When your father named you, he gave you the name Itababohi. It's a fellow wife of your mother that gave you the name of Batiyasu, Father Feather, Yano Yo. Baba Eshu. It says, whoever says all three of your names, wherever you're called on earth, you will always go. Baba Eshu. We give thanks and praise to you. We ask that you make it so that this class, that this section, that this dialogue close, and that we depart in peace, and that we may have a good night as we enjoy the energies of this Lion's Gate. We say, Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Oh.
Ashe. Yes, sir, man. Yeah, with that. Tribe, man. It's been a little minute, man. I definitely missed y'all. I appreciate, like I say, all the love and support. Spirit sat my butt down. I ain't even gonna try to fake the funk. Like I had to sit down and unplug, man. And one of the goals that I'm working on is being obedient. And so just as hard as I go, you know, to be here and show up every day, like it was like, nah, you're gonna sit your behind down. So I had to be obedient with that. But I'm back, and we back, and we're gonna definitely be turning this thing up all weekend long. So we got one tomorrow night. Well, shout out to Wu Nam. I believe we're gonna be knocking something down tomorrow at 9. I think I'm gonna drop that Sirius video because you definitely, and I feel like you invoked that. You know what I mean? Like I was waiting on the right time, but you definitely invoked that tonight with tonight's conversation. So I think I'll drop that probably before me and Wu Nam go live tomorrow night. And if I'm not mistaken, I think we'll be right back Sunday night again, man. So we're going to go ahead and go for a triple header this weekend. Baba, I'm going to holler at you, man, to see when we can kind of line up the next one because I can't wait for that one, too, because that's going to be do you want to share a little food court sample with the tribe about what we're going to tap into, or you want to just wait until we actually get ready to tap into it? It's up to you. It don't matter to me. Either way, I'm cool with it.
All right. I decided we're going to go and focus on what I call Black Atlantis, African Atlantis. We're going to talk about how we're going to go real deep, connecting to the kingdom of Olokun, connecting with the spirits of the mermaids, the spirits of Mami Wata and Yemuncha. And I just gave that closing earlier for a reason, because that's where I would like for us to go. Mope Egunomi, Mope Egunia, Mope Egunile, Mope Afefe, Mope Eguninti, Ebe Inu Aika, Mope Egunti Embe, Inu Afo. We call upon the water spirits of Olokun. We call upon the fire ancestors of Shango. We call upon the earth ancestors of Obatala. We call upon the wind ancestors, the spirits of Oya. We call upon the ancestors of the Akasha. We call upon those ancestors of Olokun. We ask that Olokun work with us and prepare us for this next session. We talk about Atlantis. We talk about how the Moors were the navigators who came to Spain with the knowledge in which they have spread throughout the world. We're going to talk about how a lot of our African ancestors were able to travel and tap into the cosmic ocean of nothingness and to channel things like inventions, like how Guido Muta was talking about how he was able to channel technology that came from the other side. We're going to talk about how these civilizations existed and how they were destroyed in cataclysms. We're going to talk about how white people created the idea of Mu and Lemuria and didn't let the people over there in the Polynesian islands speak for themselves. We're going to put some clarity on what that actually is. And we're going to be getting deep. We're going to be diving deep, family. So please don't miss it.
Ashe. Shout out to Lily Clement. They're like a new member too to the Ashe tribe, man. So welcome to the tribe first and foremost. And if you've been here, my apologies, but I don't recall that name. But it's like I ain't the only one. Lily Clement said that. Yeah, I did a 12 days blackout from social media and just unplugging and doing lots of grounding and a lot of grounding in nature and refreshing. So yeah, it's definitely sometimes we got to do that though, family, like for real. And I love doing this. Like, so that's one thing I want to be clear with. Like, I love doing this. Like, I'll do this all day, every day if I could. But I love doing it. But at the same time, I think one of the things that has kind of got me to this point in my journey, man, is just being obedient to spirit. And so spirit was like, nah, you're gonna sit your ass down. So I'm like, hey, all right. And I wanted to too. I got shows lined up, I got all kinds, but I wanted to, but they're like, no, you're gonna sit down and chill. We got some things we need to get ironed out with you. So you're gonna take a little chill, you're gonna take a little impromptu sabbatical. Like, you're gonna sit your ass down. So look, but hey, they gave me my permission slip to come back to work, so I'm back now, family. So we're here. We're gonna make it do what it do. But yeah, bye. I appreciate you, man. You always know every time we get together, boy. Hey, we got them lightning bolts on fleek, man. They on swole, and that's what it is, man. So and it's like the second or third time we did it on, Osei Shangoy, I did today too. So it's like there's something to that, man. We might have to start doing that on purpose.
Oh yeah, there's a reason why I be wearing a blue. I wear a lot of blue, and there's a reason to it because man, I gotta wear it because I gotta stay cool. Otherwise, once I go red, man.
Listen, but I know that's why he didn't make me straight. Like, look, I had to go Obatala Oshagian because like, no, we ain't letting you get all that. No. So I get it now. It makes sense. But primarily, I'm usually in white. I wear a lot of white, but I feel like with these days, I like to rep with Kabiasis. So I'm like, let me go ahead and throw some of that in there, man, just to make sure that energy is on swole. So yeah, man.
Oh, definitely.
Yes, sir. But I appreciate you, bye-bye. Like I said, I'll definitely be in touch, man, so we can line up the next one and, line it up and knock it down and continue to make it do what it do. So with that, man, I definitely give thanks and, appreciation and gratitude to you for coming through and burning it down once again. And, man, I can't wait to do it again for the next one. I can't wait to do it.
For sure, yes, brother.
Yes, sir.
All right, good brother. So, and everybody in the chat, you've been great. Thanks a lot for your questions. Come with those questions again because you keep me on my toes too.
Ashe. All right. Appreciate you, man. All right, family. So yeah, we definitely continue to keep the heat coming and we'll see y'all in the next episode. Matter of fact, we'll see y'all tomorrow night. So with that, family, we'll see y'all tomorrow. Please like, share, subscribe. We out. Odabo.
Ẹni tó gbàgbé ilé ṣàpò ìyàpọ̀ tẹ́ǹtì ẹni takísà ní tàtàn ò bá padà sílé anítìjàkọ ẹja lọ pé eégún mo ṣe ní gbẹ́rẹ́ ìpàkọ́ forsake not your ancestors and praise your